Oh my goodness. Hi. Hi. Good evening.
Hey,
Good evening. Let me go back to the comments. Here we go. All right. So hello everybody. For anybody listening in on Paranormal Radio King Network, I'm Taryn, host of Paranormal Brew, and I have Jeff Belanger with me, the nationally known author, writer, all that good fun stuff. And I know recently you've been talking about your Kilimanjaro trip adventure. Yeah. So we can talk about that, but I also just want to, just in case there are people watching that don't know who you are, maybe we can just start where you started and how you got to where you are right now and everything that Jeff does and how important this hour that you've taken out of your life to spend with me.
Yeah. So, paranormal guy first, right? I mean, and just growing up in an old New England town will do that. And I had friends that thought their houses were haunted. So I was like 10, 11 years old and going to these old homes that people thought were haunted and breaking out the Ouija board at sleepovers, things like that. And I also grew up in the town next to Ed and Lorraine Warren. So I knew them since I was like 12, 13 years old. I would go see their library programs, every Halloween, and just fell in love with the subject. And then I went to school to be a writer and started writing for newspapers. And this is back in the like mid 1990s. And I loved the Halloween feature. And I started going to haunted places, interviewing people that have had experiences. And it went up on the website, and the paper I was working for said, your paranormal articles get like 10 times the traffic of everything else combined. And then I started a website called ghostvillage.com back in 1999, 22 years ago, if you're keeping score. And from there, it just sort of grew into a career that I could never plan. I mean, I started writing books about haunted places and things like that, and then other aspects of the paranormal. Then I started working in television since 2008, since the very first episode of Ghost Adventures. I've been the writer and researcher for the entire series, every episode from then to now. And then started working on other television shows and appearing on stuff, shock docs and other series and things like that. And then I also do my own podcast called New England Legends, which is a spinoff of a series we do on PBS and Amazon Prime of the same name. And then I also do a story tour every, it's all year round now, but in the fall, it's every single night. So starting tomorrow night through November, pretty much every single night, I'll be either talking about haunted places and strange legends in front of live audiences in person or through Zoom, because these are strange times, Taryn, that we live in.
Absolutely. So wait, what is it called? What story?
I call it my story tour, but so what I do is, every night I'm sharing haunts and different legends. And because last year I had the time, I realized over time I've told over 150 different individual stories. And so I've got this library, and every night now that I do these programs, they're different every time. So it's kind of like a band that knows 150 songs. And tonight I'm going to do 10 of them. So I'm always adding to that library, and depending on where I am, I might, swap in some local stories and stuff like that. It's been so cool. So since I've really focused on New England for my own work, Ghost Adventures is more like the southwestern U.S., and then my work is northeastern. We just have this really cool community of people that have been sharing these stories, like writing into our Facebook group or our website or whatever, and just saying hey, in my little town, there's this really quirky tale that we heard as kids. And then we get another story to chase. And I love the way that, these stories kind of connect us to our communities, but also to each other when we share them. Because any paranormal investigation show you've ever seen ever in your whole life, it always started with a story, right? It always started with oh, did you hear about this crazy haunt in this place? No, what happened? Well, during the Civil War, this thing happened, and now it's haunted, and we're going to go look for that ghost. There's always a backstory, and to me, that's the most important part of the equation.
Yeah, the history.
Yeah, well, that's the stage that we set the ghosts on, right? I've seen some paranormal shows that are just this place was built in 1843. It's haunted. Let's look for ghosts. And I'm like, that's it? Like, that's all we get? It's not enough.
Right. So what intrigues you most to be able to like go and chase the story and find more out? Like, it's like you said, like, it's not just like, oh yeah, I live in a 1800 farmhouse, you know, like there obviously has to be something that sticks out or
Yeah.
that it's different.
Totally. And it's I mean, because you know, at this point I've looked into thousands of locations over my 20 plus years of doing this. Put them in books on ghost adventures. Like, so all I can say is at some point there's literally something that turns in my gut when I hear a story, right? When they're like, okay, old house, old haunted farmhouse. I'm like, okay, not saying it's not interesting. I'm sure it is, but then
Right.
there's some twist in there somewhere where I think I could find something out that maybe someone else hasn't, you know, where I can add a new wrinkle to it, where, you know, I want to talk to the people that have seen the thing, people who live there, people who work there. Like, what new angle can I take on this? How can I get into this haunt unlike someone before? And I don't do that with EMF meters and, you know, audio recorders. I do that with research. I do that with, you know, going through newspaper archives and genealogy and local, you know, libraries and local historical commissions. Like, that's how I get into the haunt. I want to know everything in the past.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love learning about the history of places. For me, you know, Mark Nesbitt had an interesting story about, long story short, I believe it was the Daniel Lady Farm in Gettysburg.
Been there with Mark, as a matter of
fact. Did he tell you the story about the blood? Like, that is
fingerprints on the floor.
The blood, and it was like, and he took a sample of it, sent it out. It came back later like it was human blood, but then it was like gone.
Oh, Taryn. So no, let me set it up. Yeah, so I was there with Mark. And so, as with tons and tons of buildings during the Civil War, they become field hospitals, right? I mean, if people are injured, you go to the nearest house and you say, guess what? You're now a field hospital. And they would go to the room with the most light, which is usually one of the front parlors. And these old wood floors, you could still see like blood stains where handprints and things like that. So Mark was saying he was in there at one point and the blood bubbled up, like it became liquid. Now, just refresher, right? It was July of 1863, the last time the blood was fresh, you know? And so right. A century and a half later plus, right? Like, it's,
I know.
You know, suddenly this blood bubbles up. He collects a sample, finds out it's real human blood. And it's one of these like just weird, crazy stories. And Mark's so good. Mark's, you know, Mr. Ghost of Gettysburg. So yeah, that was a cool night with Mark for sure.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that is probably one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard, because it was gone. Now, you know, wood and the walls and this, I mean, like, if there's a blood stain, it's there forever. Like, you can see it forever. The wood just soaks that blood in and it just stays there. And for it to be completely gone, like, I was just like, that's one of the most amazing stories I ever heard.
Yeah, no. And Mark's so good. Like, you know, Mark cares so much about the context, right? Because if we just told you there's this place, it's old and this blood bubbled up, it just doesn't mean as much as like, no, this is Gettysburg. And you know what Gettysburg means, right? Like, Gettysburg means the Gettysburg Address. And it means that, you know, tens of thousands are dead, missing, or wounded in the span of 3 days, right? And that the incredible cost. I mean, who doesn't know Gettysburg, right? But the problem with Gettysburg is that if I tell you, you know, 40,000 plus dead, missing, or wounded, numbers are cold and impersonal. You know, like, it doesn't, if, you know, you say like 3,000 people died on 9/11, that's horrible, but it doesn't mean nearly as much as a single person, right? One name, you know, like where we can tell you about someone who was at Gettysburg, who represents a real human being who died serving his cause, serving his comrades, whatever. And then you multiply that by 40,000 and it really hits home. Then it starts to, you realize why this place is haunted, why Lincoln said it was haunted in the Gettysburg Address, right? We cannot hollow this ground. Those that died here did it far beyond our ability to do so, right? I mean, he knew back then this is hallowed, sacred ground, and still is today.
Yeah, well, even Chamberlain says it. He said spirits linger, so to to help people preserve, to preserve the land, and for the people that come after us that are going to come here to, honor those that fought. So even Chamberlain said it. So yeah.
No, and I know you've been to Gettysburg a bunch. That's where I met you the first time,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
and we were there this past summer for the event, and so when you walk around some of the battlefields, like I'm not psychic at all, but you feel something. You absolutely feel something.
Oh yeah.
It's just this sense, and to me, I don't even think you have to call it psychic. I think you could call it just empathy, right? Just like if you walk into a room and you see some people crying and you go, oh, I mean, you're sad because you're like, are you okay? What happened? Something has gone wrong. You go to those battlefields and you're like, you feel the fear, you feel the rage, you feel the sadness that's just there forever.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first went there, actually, my mom wanted me to go, and I was like, what is in Gettysburg? Like, I was like, so not about it. I was like, no way. I'm like, I was so not. The second I got there, it was like, I instantly fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this place is amazing. I want to move here.
I don't mean to interrupt you or completely throw us so far off course that our heads will spin for the next 2 weeks, going. Are you wearing a New Kids on the Block t-shirt?
Yes. I am such a hardcore fan. I love them.
I just saw kids, they're all from Boston, right?
New Kids on the Block. They're my boys, 30 years strong. I love them. Love them. Yes.
Let's unpack this.
Okay.
No. So 30 years ago,
NKOTB, yes.
So some people who know me know that I like to play different musical instruments. I play guitar. I've got a banjolin, half banjo, half mandolin, amazing ukulele. But my main axe, as some people know, is the didgeridoo. It's not a bong; it's a didgeridoo.
Yeah, okay.
I got it in Australia from an Aborigine, right? Like Aboriginal person who taught me how to play it. Taryn, for you tonight and your audience, I will play New Kids on the Block on the didgeridoo.
Stop it.
Not only that, name the song. You want the big hit, name a hit, something that people would know. Give me a hit.
You just do the right stuff.
The right stuff. Okay.
Everybody knows.
Ready?
We're hanging tough. Everybody knows right stuff or hanging tough. This is awesome.
Pick one.
Right stuff. Do right stuff.
Right stuff. Okay. So
this is awesome.
Right.
Go ahead.
Nailed it.
Totally.
Nailed it. Dang. The kid has got talent.
Why haven't they made you the 6th member of NKOTB?
I already live up here in the land of the massholes. That's what they call us. People from Massachusetts.
Really?
I have no idea, but I'm waiting for the phone's probably going to ring while we're during this, and I'll have to go. I'll just have to get to rehearsal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like really bad. I have met them 3 times. I go to their concerts. Like I am like diehard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Now you've heard their song on the didgeridoo.
Almost love them as much as I love you. Almost.
Aww.
I mean, it's like, it's close. Very big.
Thanks.
So have you ever had a paranormal experience?
I have. So the funny thing is when I first started writing about the paranormal in the mid-90s, I had not. Now, I'd been in creepy houses. I had strange feelings, but I'm not talking, like to me, feelings are one thing, but like, I'm talking see something, hear something. And so the first time it happened for me, I was in Paris, France, actually. And I'd been writing about ghosts for about 6 years at that point. And not that I thought anyone was lying to me who'd ever told me about their paranormal experience. In fact, the only reason I would ever listen or write it down was because I felt like I believe that you believe. I felt like they've been moved by something. So right. I was in the catacombs of Paris. The tunnels beneath the city where there's literally millions of human skeletons. And I was down there alone, walking through these tunnels. And there's this long straightaway, and I see this shadow figure the size of a man who came from the right side and went to the left and then back again. And I just froze. And I went, okay, wait a minute. This doesn't happen to me ever. And then I thought, okay, someone's down here with me. There must be a little side tunnel. And then I look and there's no side tunnel. And then I'm trying to come up with every possible explanation that I can. And when you run out of explanations, you're kind of left with one word, right? Ghost.
Right.
And it was one of those experiences that took like days and weeks and even months to fully sink in, because at that point I had interviewed hundreds of people about their ghost experiences by then. Now it's thousands, but it was hundreds. And I was like, this is what they're talking about. I didn't ask for this. It's like, for me, it's like the equivalent would be, I was somewhere when lightning struck. It happens, right? Lightning strikes all the time, all over the world. We know this, right? But I don't usually see it happen. And that day I did. And it was not the last time, but it was the first, and it was the most memorable. So yeah, it's happened a handful of times, and I've been in tons of creepy places late at night, early in the morning, battlefields, dungeons in England, old prisons in Australia, you name it. And once in a while, you get more than a feeling. You actually see something.
Yeah. As I've been doing the show, and I have just an array of different guests on, skeptics, all kinds of people that believe in UFOs, people that are Bigfoot hunters, people that are, everything. So, when you start to think about it, right? So when people say, well, how do you know, because sometimes I can hear something, I hear answers to questions, or I hear, a voice. And, a lot of times people are like, well, what if that's your, when you start to like really talk about it, you get deep and you go down this rabbit hole of like, okay, what if that's your thoughts being projected out, and, this and that.
Yeah. What if?
Yeah. What if, right?
Which I think is still a great discussion to have.
Yeah. And it's possible. However, things like last night, I was at work. I was the only one there, and I'm sitting at my desk, and I hear this woman, loud as anything, whisper. And it was a whisper, but it was a loud whisper. She said, "What is this place?" That's all I heard. I was working, so I wasn't thinking about anything. So for me, that's not anything. So what was that? You know what I mean? Like, I can see if you're in an investigation and you're.
No, I have an answer. You asked me, what was that? And I'm going to give you my professional opinion.
Go ahead.
Demon.
Stop it.
That's where I start. I like to start with demon and then, go down from there.
I can't.
Maybe Satan. Maybe Satan. Maybe not a demon. Maybe you got the Dark Lord himself.
I would bring him up. I probably would do that. But
Taryn, you may not know this about me. There's demonologists are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. You can't throw a rock in New England without hitting 5. I am a Satanologist. You call me when you get the big dog and nothing else.
Well, if he looks like Lucifer on the TV show, I'm keeping them all to myself. Nobody's coming near that.
No, I want the guy with the horns and the red skin and like that's what I'm talking about. Call me when that happens. Minor demons, call Zaphis. He's got that.
Oh, somebody's giving you like a little nice. Jeff has been our savior during the pandemic with all his virtual Zooms. We love him and appreciate all he does. He's amazing and brought many of us together from all over the world. That was so nice.
Pretty soon we're going to start a cult. So that's how it starts. Starts with like a couple of Zooms and some drinks during a pandemic. And then, you give me power of attorney and off we go. That's been great.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, and the first time I met Jeff, I was just a little enthusiast. Like, I was in Gettysburg by myself for a weekend, phenomenology. I tell this story all the time, and I've said this to you 1,000 times because it's like the best ever. But it was me, you, Bob Murch and a couple of people in the basement of the Farnsworth house. We were down there for 15 minutes, and I just couldn't. I laughed the entire time. It was the best 15-minute ghost hunt I've ever had in my life. Good sound of history.
So here's the thing. Like, I think like on a ghost hunt, you love me or you hate me. I don't think there's anyone who's neutral. And because I can't keep quiet, I'm incapable of shutting up. I can't do it. Like if you're doing an EVP session, I'll ruin it every time. Like you don't want me anywhere near it. And so all I can do is kind of like tell jokes because it's so silly, right? We're in the dark in the basement of a building, like a cool historic building. And I really love being there, like legit. And I love people and I love talking to people, but I can't help but crack jokes. It's all I do when I'm uncomfortable. And if you leave your audio recorder unattended near me, oh my God, you're going to get an EVP class A++, right? I'll be like, listen to the New England Legends podcast every Thursday at noon. Download it now. Right?
Yes.
Oh, I think that was Lincoln. I think Lincoln said that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was the best. It really was. Goes down in history as like one of my favorite 15 minutes of investigating
Wait,
ever.
can I just say, like, and you know what's worse? You paid for that.
I know. I did. I paid for it.
You paid for that. And I'm sitting there going, I can't make ghosts appear. Like, this is why I get so uncomfortable on like the public ghost hunts where they're like, Jeff, you stay here and people come through and they get to investigate with you. And I'm like, I can't make them appear. I can't make any magic happen. And I hate that because I don't want to let anyone down. I'm one of those people that like hates letting people down. And so people come in and I'm like, I can crack jokes and make you laugh, but the ghosts, it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, but you know what though? I mean, things like that, and people sometimes people are a little bit too. I mean, they have to know like it's not going to happen just because you want it to. I think just doing the investigation part of it for me and being not knowing that much and being an enthusiast, I'm like, that weekend I also investigated with Debbie and Mark Constantino and that was interesting because they actually got an EVP. Oh, it was very interesting.
So for those who don't know, let's talk about that. Can we? I mean, should we? Why not?
Mm-hmm.
What are you drinking, by the way?
This is an entire bottle of wine, actually, in one cup. And it's called Twisted Thicket, and it's a Gettysburg wine, ironically.
And you're going to drink a whole bottle of wine this hour.
Well, I mean, I'm celebrating Jeff coming on my show. So, cheers. I don't know if I'm going to drink the whole thing. But it's really tastes like grape juice.
Drowning your sorrows. I'm not saying you have a problem, but I'm not saying you have a problem. Are we clear?
We're clear.
Okay. So, maybe 1A at this point. Maybe you're not ready for AA, but like just one of them.
Half.
Just, yeah. Like I won't even use AA batteries. That's because no one likes a quitter. So, anyway, so Mark and Debbie Constantino, for those who don't know, were EVP specialists. I say were in the past tense because they are both dead right now.
Right.
It's a horribly tragic, terrible story. I've known them since maybe 2005 was the first time I met them before I worked on Ghost Adventures. And they were the Bickersons, right? It was sort of cute and funny the way they married forever. Yeah, just bicker with each other. And it was kind of funny, but they got crazy EVP, right?
Right. And that's the thing. Like when we were investigating, like you laughed at it because it didn't feel serious
back then it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't yet. Like back then it was just the Bickersons. They'd be like, oh, and it was kind of funny and you could laugh at it. But over time it got more and more negative and they got to a really bad, dark place. And those of us that knew them well we've had conversations where we're like, these are two good people that should be nowhere near each other. Right? Like if you're over there and you're over there, then you're both fine. It's when you get together that just horrible things happen. And it's just, the chemistry soured over time. And then tragically it ended in a double murder suicide and just awful, like so awful to I remember thinking that Zach is the guy that called me, Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures. He's like, did you hear what just happened today? And by the way, the anniversary was like 2 days ago or something. Right. So, so I said, no. And he's like, so, Mark shot Debbie's roommate, shot Debbie and shot himself. And this is what I struggle with. Right. So I'm like, I know someone that committed a double murder suicide. I knew him for years. And that's a really strange thing to come to grips with. Now I weren't real close in the later years. Like we'd talk once in a while, like if they were on ghost adventures, I was coordinating that and talking to them, and we'd see each other at events, and I'd check in with them sort of separately, not on purpose. That's just kind of how it went. It was just like Mark would come up and say hey, and would talk about football, and Debbie would come up and say hey, and we just chatted. But it got to a darker and darker place. And the question I couldn't help but ask myself still to this day is like, could I have done something? You know what I mean?
Though, I think that a lot of people do that even when people commit suicide. You like,
oh, of course,
your friends commit suicide and stuff. It's, I mean,
well, it was a suicide, right? That was that, right?
Right. But I think when I hate to use the word successful, but when people successfully carry out this suicide or double murder, suicide, whatever you want to call it, I don't think most of the times I don't think it's planned. I think it's like something snaps and it just happens. And yes, they were, kind of, oil and vinegar, water and vinegar and this and that. And, but I know tons of people.
Water and vinegar is a douche, by the way. Oil and vinegar is what you were looking for.
I think the wine's going to my head.
The wine is already messing up your speech. And we're not making light. It's just our way to crack jokes. But it was horrible.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like, so I know someone that committed suicide. I mean, that was part of this equation. And you're right. It's always hard because you're like, could I have done something? Could I have seen it? Because by the time that it happened, those of us that knew them and had seen them in the last year or two, like kind of called each other and were like, you couldn't be totally shocked when you heard this because it was getting really rough between them.
Right.
And, but whose job is it to step in and say, you two shouldn't, you husband and wife should not be together. Right. And they had already sort of split at that point. They were living separately and, the whole thing. And so I just remember being so heartbroken all around, it's so bad when you hear news where just everyone loses, like there's no winners, everyone lost, such a tragic thing. And then you can't help but just kind of like want to just look out a little more for friends and people you care about and just check in, I mean, someone said earlier how like, okay, during the pandemic, I was doing a bunch of these live streams and I was having all kinds of paranormal people on, but like we talked about the paranormal only if there was time,
Right.
Because it was like, we have other things to discuss. And the big question was, how are you? And which is funny because that question is one of the biggest pet peeves I have as an American citizen. Like, and I say that because it's a very American thing to use that as a greeting, right? You go into a store and you say, how you doing?
Yeah,
how are you? Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
But you sure do not want the answer. When the clerk asks you from behind the counter, when you're buying your beer or your giant jug of wine, hey, how you doing? How am I doing? I'm buying a bottle of wine that I intend to put in a single glass so I can fool myself into thinking I'm only having one glass. Right. So, so like, how you doing? It's not the right greeting because the only answer to that is fine or good. And how are you? Fine, good, great. Let's move past this false thing that we just did. We need a different greeting. But during the pandemic, I meant it. I meant it when we said, like, how are you doing? Like, how do you get through your day? How are you waking up and facing this bleakness that we're all in? And I really wanted to know because I was trying to face it too.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all. I'll get off my soapbox, but all I ask.
No, but it's an awesome point that who said it earlier. And even with now, like I have 6 brothers and like we had to like FaceTime, Thanksgiving. I mean, like if we didn't have these things like, StreamYards and you doing your Zoom videos and YouTubes and people like still trying to stay connected and seeing people because we're human, we need to have that connection with people and, all that. So I think it probably saved a lot of people from a depression, you know, if they weren't working and then they weren't, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people were out of work and they were, you know, struggling. So, you know, things like what you did probably helped and saved a lot of people, you know, a lot of people. And I know that sounds like a really big statement, but it's true. I mean, you don't know. I mean, you are, you know, a lot of people love you, look up to you. You know, you're an icon. So, you know, and you are funny AF. I'll say that.
We can't swear. Oh,
you can. Yes.
No, I'm not swearing. I don't have to.
But, you know, I think a lot of these, you know, and it's helped me. I mean, I definitely have connected with a lot of people that I normally probably wouldn't have.
Well, and you know what was cool about it was that we found a way. You know what I mean? It's not the same as in person, but it was something, and we found a way. And I love watching people innovate, whether it's you know, how do we, so the speakeasy thing that I was doing, which I haven't done in many, many months because I've just been too busy doing other programs. It all started where I called my friends Brad and Tim in Michigan, and I was just like, do you guys want to have a beer tonight? And the answer was like, yes. And of course it was yes, but they're like, okay, how? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do we do? And I said, well, there's StreamYard, and we could like just drink and then let other people watch us drink, and we'll just talk and drink.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then people are like, this feels like a happy hour. And then people were drinking alone together. You know?
Right.
They're like, I don't feel like, so, you know, drinking alone is a scary thing. Look at you. You're drinking alone right now, but I'm here. So it makes it okay.
Yes.
I know.
And they're all here. So it makes it okay. And everybody's
wait, I got to change my display name. Can I do that while we're going? Like, no, you can do it.
I can?
Just change it to enabler.
Hold on. How do I do that? I don't know how to do it.
I thought you could do it.
I don't know. You would have to do it.
Nah, too much trouble. The joke's past. But I feel like I'm enabling you. But either way, you do you. Whatever you got to do to get through the night, I accept it. And that's what we did, right? That's what we did that whole year of just like, and remember Gettysburg, that was the first time I was around a big group of people since the pandemic started. And you know, I'd been vaccinated, and I know some of those people were not. And I'm just like, holy crap, is this going to turn into a super spreader? Are people safe? Are we going to get someone sick? All those things. And then, you know, and then suddenly after like a day or two, it just started to feel kind of normal again, which was great. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, I'm in the medical field, so I have not had a day off. You know, last week was my first vacation in almost a year and a half to 2 years, because medical field, you know, there was no break. There's no break. And it is now, you know, becoming it's just becoming very, you know, it's becoming very chaotic. I'll say this, you know, kids going back to school and they have a sniffle and they're sending them home and they have to get COVID tested and they're not allowed back in until they get the COVID test. And, you know, parents are like ready to kill everybody. And, you know, it's just insane, you know, and it's so hence my bottle of wine.
Yeah. It's a glass of wine, Taryn. It's just a glass of wine.
It's a glass.
And it still looks half full because I'm an optimist.
All right. So
what were we talking about? When do you go live, by the way? When do you turn this thing live?
Oh, I can't. I so love you. I swear I love you.
Any minute now, because I was gonna play the didgeridoo as like an intro, but let me know when we start.
We're started. Didgeridoo it up.
I didgeridoo don't. I didgeridoo.
You deserve that one glass. Thank you.
Yeah, just one though.
Only one.
It's the glass to have when you're having only one.
So this past phenom, now I'm used to, and I know you hate the word lecture. You say I hate.
I do. Other people do lectures. I tell stories and share them myself.
Yeah. Which is awesome. I totally, you and Merch, like I could listen to you guys talk all. I mean, he totally changed my mind about the Ouija board 1000%. You know, but your last one you saw that you did about Kilimanjaro. I don't know if you want to get totally into the entire thing.
Whatever you want.
whatever you want. I mean, I think that was just, it was probably one of the best stories, or whatever you want to call it, at a conference that I have seen. I mean, it was very moving. I remember you had told me that somebody had came up to you afterward and said, what did they say? They thought it was going to be.
I thought you were talking about ghosts, and that's okay. No, it's okay. I think I said, well, I don't know if I always give you what you want. I just hope to give you what you need,
But it was a spirit. But this was a spiritual level type of a thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't a ghost. It was Casper wasn't coming around the corner and saying boo. But that's really never really been your thing. I mean, you talk about it, but you're not like talking about, like your ghost investigations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you briefly want to just
whatever you want. Kilimanjaro had been on my bucket list for years and years. I took Swahili in college, which is the language of East Africa, which is a long, weird story. It's because I failed French. My last name is French, Belanger, if you wanted to pronounce it like, Canada or France. And I failed because like French teachers are evil. And I'm like, she thought I should be fluent with a name like that. I'm like, ma'am, we've lived here so long that like my great grandparents were Belangers, like, like fourth or fifth generation American at this point. Like there's very little left. So I failed. I took Swahili. I love the language. I love the teacher. It was amazing. And then Kilimanjaro, it's the tallest peak in Africa. One of the 7 summits, 19,341 feet. And it's not a technical climb. So you don't need to be, like hanging by ropes and stuff. Like there's a path you can take to just get yourself to the top. Always wanted to do it. And then it's one of those things that just sort of hangs in the back of your head until something brings it to the forefront. And what happened was back in 2013, my brother-in-law, Chris, had a diagnosis that nobody saw coming. He was 44 years old and was having some stomach problems, was losing some weight. And he went to the doctor and they ran tests and more tests. And he gets a phone call from his doctor who says, come down here right now. Just stop what you're doing, hang up the phone and come down here. And he's a school principal. So he had to literally walk out of the school day. And he gets to the doctor and the doctor tells him, you have stage 4 cancer. It's fully metastasized. There's tumors everywhere. And you've got 18 to 24 months to live. Mm. And all of us were just like, what? 44 years old. And you went from like some stomach issues to a death sentence. Right. My nephew's 3 at the time. My sister's like, well, I'm going to, be a widow and have to raise our kid alone. And everything was just like the world changed for us. Like, when it happens in your family, like the world is entirely different now. What does this mean? And, and Chris, because of my paranormal work, Chris and I got a lot closer. I mean, he could talk to me about the afterlife and dying. And he was not an atheist when I met him, but close, and the whole thing became so spiritual for him. And he shared it all with me right up to the end, including like, he was having out of body experiences in his final days and he was telling me about them. And we had such profound conversations. And by the time he died, like he and I were just so much closer than we ever would have been had this not happened. Mm-hmm. And which made it so much harder, but almost kind of like so much more beautiful, right? Better to have loved and lost, right? Than never to have loved at all. And so he passed away in December of 2015. And you have to go on, you have to keep moving and be supportive and do what you can. And it was about 6 months later, I was at a paranormal event doing a fundraiser for this old historic building in Massachusetts. And a woman walked up to me who I'd known. She worked for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And I've done fundraisers for them in the past and, helped raise money. And she's like, we got a new program coming up, Jeff. I think you'll love it. And I was like, oh, I'm so busy, Amy, but I'll help if I can. And she said, we're going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise money to fight cancer. And like, just, like the record scratched in the movie, and
I think my calendar just cleared.
Yeah. Right. Like everyone around me froze in place, and it was just me and her. And I said, Kilimanjaro. And I said, when? She's like, we're going to go in March 2017. And I'm like, that's pretty much a good time for me usually, like it's not October, right? And then I was like, oh my God, it's so rare the universe holds something out on a golden platter for you, to say like, do this in memory of your brother-in-law, his honor, raise money for cancer, cross this off your bucket list. I'm just a couple years younger than him at this point. And I was just like, yeah, Amy, I'm in. And I raised money, and people were so generous. Like, so many people donated over $17,000. I was able to raise.
So awesome.
Yeah, and then I met 5 of us from New England all joined this team, and none of us knew each other before, and we trained all through the winter, all through the mountains of New Hampshire, and then got to go have this experience, and it was so life-changing for me. Not just physically difficult and challenging, but like, it's 6 days to the top, 2 days back down, no Wi-Fi, no internet, no cell phones, just unplugged and making your way to, from the bottom, it's summer because you're near the equator, and it's
right.
it's always warm, to brisk, and then at the top it's literally an Arctic tundra complete with glaciers, and just to have that experience and barely be able to breathe. And
yeah, I remember you talking about that part. Like the whole time, I was literally, you were so detailed. Like I was picturing the entire thing, and I'm like, there's no way I would have been able to do that. Like in my head, I'm like, I would have been like, there's no way.
You say that, but I mean, it's gradual, right? You don't get thrown up there. But I also feel like what I love about it too is that, I mean, the mountain's a metaphor for anything. Anything can be a metaphor, a mountain, right? Trying to quit smoking, or trying to like get over a breakup, or trying to like, get a new job. Like, these are all mountains that we have to climb. But this one was literal, which sort of made it simpler in a way, just like, okay, how do you climb a mountain? Well, you just take one step and then another. There's no other way. That's how all of them are climbed. You do one and then another step and another step. And eventually, when you can't go any higher, you realize you've reached the halfway point. Like, that's halfway. You got to get back down. And it was such an amazing lesson. And there's a word for the top of the mountain that means where it's the house of God, or where God dwells, because the Maasai and the Chaga people that live around the mountain believe that only those who are worthy are allowed up there. And by the time I got to the rim of the volcano, the very edge, and the sun was coming up, it had just broken through the clouds that are like thousands of feet below us. Like, that's how high up we are. I mean, I felt Chris with me in that moment. I felt this huge, awesome presence all around me. And it was just, even though there was like another 500 vertical feet, another like 3/4 of a mile, another hour to go, it was this moment that was just like, this is done. I'm going to make it. There's no question. It's an absolute foregone conclusion. I just have to finish. And I hold on to that sunrise. I hold on to that experience to this day, because I still have crappy days. And I think about, like, no matter how crappy the day gets, the sun rises again tomorrow, and we get another shot at this. We get to try again. And sometimes you got to just write the day off. I think it's in our nature to sort of wait for monumental days, like New Year's Day. I'm going to make resolutions, or my birthday, I'm going to start doing this, or first of the month. Like, you don't need any of that. Tomorrow is fine for whatever thing you have in mind. Tomorrow is just fine. The sun comes up, you get a brand new start, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to me, that was very, and there was like a lot of things, like, and I'm sure there was a lot of people in the audience that probably could have related, to, my father had leukemia. I did walks for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I remember when you say in a couple years, my dad was 44 when he was diagnosed with his leukemia. I'm 43. So now I'm like relating to his life. Like, he was really only, like, I knew he was young, but now I can relate to how young he was. Like, he had this whole life ahead of him. Right. I mean, so the story was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
And it definitely was. It definitely is different for you, but it was awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
It really was, and I'm happy that you shared it with everybody.
Yeah, I sort of, I mean, that's also kind of my nature, is to find stories, share them. I mean, they don't do me any good bottled up inside. And I'm a sharer. I wear it on my sleeve. I'm an open book when it comes to just about anything. I mean,
Mhm.
and because I kind of feel like we're all trying to muddle through this human experience. A big part of the reason I'm so into ghosts and legends, right, is just like, because I know history's happened before.
Yeah.
Let me learn something from it. I just keep making mistake after mistake. Maybe if I find the right story, I'll do a little better tomorrow. If I we learn a little bit from the past, and that's the thing about history, is that it does repeat, and it's just one of those things where I found such connection, not just with dead people, from long ago, but with living people like you, when we're in the basement talking to the dark air, saying like, hey, is there anyone here with us?
You actually asked if there's anybody there right now, give us a little Gettysburg Address, and you started doing some fart machine on your phone, and
that sounds like me. I don't remember that specifically, but I'm definitely not calling you a liar.
No, it was great. I'm telling you, and you know what it is? It left such an impression. Like, I mean, like to this day, I'm like,
never ghost hunt with him again. Yeah. Note to self. Dear diary, never do this again with Jeff. Check. Yeah. Huh. No, that's smart.
No, you know what? You should add comedian to your resume. I'm not even kidding you. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. So the other thing too is, I mean, if you were a ghost and you're in some stuffy old building, and someone's like, "What year did you die? Who's the president right now?"
Right.
Or like, the guy with the fart piano on his phone, would you be like, "What the hell is?" I mean, I'd be more intrigued by that. But that's me. I'm immature. I admit it.
It's so true.
Yeah. I would be drawn like a moth to flames.
Yeah.
Right? Like the guy with the fart jokes. I'd be like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I'm sorry. It was great. I tried. I think I sent it to Bob, and it was like such a crappy recording, because it was like a really crappy old recording. But I sent it to him, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is great!" Like, he was like listening to it. It was literally, I mean, you are like awesome as always. I mean, like I was like, so you're still doing all these things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just like totally, just like still ghost adventuring. You're still legend tripping. Oh, I have this.
What do you got? Oh, you know what? I love that book. Didn't do very well.
I love this book.
It didn't do well, and I'll tell you why, because no one understands the title.
I love this book.
Thank you.
And I got that one.
Yes, I wrote the foreword to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love these books. And it even, it comes with, I got the handy dandy little.
Which there's no such thing as a DVD player anymore. It's all streaming, but whatever.
But you know what? I put a post up the other day because I'm moving and I have all these DVDs, and I'm like, what do I do with them? Do I sell them? Do I throw them out? Everybody's like, keep them. I have a DVD player.
Yeah. For now.
Yeah.
No, I was in the same boat. Like I bought it. I got like a super cheap DVD player because I still have a few that I might want to watch. And so I've got one, even though like it's used maybe like 3 times a year at Christmas when I want to watch Christmas specials that I have on DVD. And that's about it.
John says Jeff loves dad jokes.
It's true. Why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road?
I don't know.
Because it got stuck in a crack. That's usually my closer, so don't ask for another one.
All right, now
that's where you're like, good night, tip your waiters, thank you so much. That's
I can't. I knew. I really, and then I have ADD so bad, and then like,
let's ride bikes.
Yeah, it's like squirrel, whatever. I mean, like, I'm all over the place.
Glass of wine, woo.
Yeah, which is still
half full. Good.
Yeah.
Very optimistic.
I am. Stop.
Like this, when the show ends, you're gonna just be like, you're gonna close this thing down and you're gonna chug that and be like, it was supposed to be a paranormal show. It was something went. I think about the time we did New Kids on the Block on Didgeridoo, it's just we jumped the shark, and that's the Paranormal Brew.
We're asking for didgeridoo closer.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I feel like it can be overdone.
I don't know. You like nailed it. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah. Well, when like you're at like some fancy cocktail party and you see me walk in with the didgeridoo, and you're like, oh crap.
Didgeridoo.
Yeah.
You has a didgeridoo.
Yeah. They're like, oh, Jeff, are you gonna play? Yes. I thought I would play us some Christmas carols at this holiday party. And at first everybody laughs, but then a half hour later they're like, please stop.
No,
right?
no.
Let's never invite him again.
Next, if you're gonna be at Phenom next year, you are totally didgeridooing.
Oh.
Yeah.
At the karaoke?
Yeah. Just get on there and didgeridoo.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I think everybody will love it.
We'll start a band of just misfits.
I'll have my New Kids on the Block shirt on.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
That'd be good.
And totally.
Yeah.
Ghost.
It's funny.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. So it's funny to see when people are using StreamYard, it's difficult, by the way. I get it. So you're trying to be engaged in a conversation and go looking at the.
I know. Because I want to make sure, like, if anybody has a question, I mean, everybody's just kind of like, commenting, but I always want to make sure if anybody had a question for you, because me as an interviewer, I'm like not asking you any questions. I'm just kind of like, we're just having a combo.
I'm ready for questions. Like, go, let's start. Go.
Okay. What do you have coming up next? Any events where you're going to be at? I'm sorry. I know it's normal, but I just
every night I got something coming up. Every single night. No joke. Starting tomorrow. You got to go to my website, which is my name, jeffbelanger.com. And some of them are virtual, so you can attend from anywhere. And most of them are free, sponsored by the various libraries and organizations that are hosting me. Some of them are in person. I'll be around New England. I'll be in Connecticut. I'll be in New Hampshire. I'm in Connecticut Friday night. I miss people so much. So even though some places we got to wear masks, it is what it is. I'm just grateful to be in front of people, because as much as I appreciate that we can connect, it's really hard to do these things. Like the Kilimanjaro program you saw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I felt everybody's energy. I felt them crying and stuff, and that gets to me, and then it just goes back and forth, and it's amazing. It's not quite the same when you're looking at this little dot and trying to bring the pain for that.
Yeah. But now you're
out of questions. That was the only one you had.
I totally had a question in my head. I have ADD so bad, and then the second it's something, and then it's I go off over here.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Yeah, I totally just pink.
Take your time. It can be. Let's ask non-paranormal questions, favorite foods. What's your favorite food?
Me?
Yeah, go to. You're I can never say no to.
Pasta or French fries.
Okay. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. How about you?
Pizza.
I love pizza.
Even bad pizza, I'd still be Domino's. I'd be okay.
I call it Domino's, by the way.
Yeah, it's something went wrong. If you're no offense to our friends that work there and sponsor your show, but
sure.
Right. But yeah, something went wrong if you're having Domino's, I guess.
I know that when I'm on a diet, the one thing I crave is pizza. That's it. I don't
carbs, the cheese, the meats. It's so good.
Everything.
Yeah.
Somebody's telling me to blame it on the wine. I do. So yeah. I do have a question though. When you write for a show.
Yes.
Okay. What are you writing? Are you writing what they say?
Dude, shut up. That's me. I wrote that.
Oh.
No, I didn't.
I thought you were telling me to shut up.
No, I wasn't telling you to shut up. I was quoting. It's my show. I'll mute you. You should have just muted me right there. No. So with Ghost Adventures, the very beginning of the show is the historical setup. where we learn about the history of the place. We meet the people that have had experiences, and we kind of like set the stage. And that's the part I work on. I give them all that research. I give them sort of like bullet points to hit the historical points of where we are and why we're there. Once the ghost investigation starts on Ghost Adventures, it goes from being a produced show to here's the ghost hunt. The lights are out. We got cameras rolling all over. And now you're seeing like the highlight of an evening investigation. And so the part that's written is just the beginning, where we kind of get there and set the thing up. And it's not totally written. I mean, Zach's off the cuff all the time, especially during his interviews. So the writing part is really just like, there's voiceovers and things, stuff that has to set the stage for where we are. And that's the stuff I give them.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, cause I was like, how do you write for, like, what do you write? Like, I don't, so I'm glad that I asked that question, because I've always wondered, like, you at the end of a reality show, it's like, writer. And I'm like, how do you write for reality? Like, what is it that you're writing? You know what I mean? If it's supposed to be reality, or it's supposed to be, it's like, what are they writing? But that makes sense. I mean, somebody has to do, but so how do they find you? I mean, so the show's like,
I'm right here.
Like, so the show's like, oh, we need somebody to do the research.
Yeah. So it actually, back in 2008, the Ghost Adventures had that documentary that came out, and you may have seen it on Sci-Fi. I didn't work on that at all. That was before me. But once they got the series on Travel Channel, they said, we need someone to help us find locations, help us do the history, and then, give it to us so we can go in and investigate. And so Zach knew Dave Schrader. Schrader's like, oh, you want Jeff? He's written a ton of books on haunted places, knows haunts everywhere. Zach called me and said, all right, we want you. And I said, oh, it was supposed to just be 8 episodes. That's it. And I was like, oh, well, I've written for magazines, for newspapers, for the web, for books. TVs would be a new medium for me. Like, that sounds interesting. Let's do it. And so I did, and it was a ton of work. Like, it was cool to be there from the beginning and like literally help build a show. Like, when you're starting, like, well, what does it look like? Like, someone's got to think about all that stuff. And so it kind of came together, and then it was a lot of work, but it was really cool. And then the episodes started to air, and I thought we were done. I'm like, okay, 8 episodes. It took like a couple of months to film all those, and I'm like, well, that was cool. On to the next thing. And then they aired, and they were popular, and the Travel Channel said, how fast can you guys get back to work? And we were like, I guess tomorrow. And that was the last day off, 2008. So
do you have to go to, when they're filming, you have to go?
So sometimes, like, especially when we're doing miniseries and stuff like that, and we really got to get in deeper. But a lot of times I can do it remotely. I can do it. We've got online access to some really great resources that we pay for, newspaper archives and genealogy and stuff like that. And then, a lot of it can be done by phone. So yeah, sometimes if it's called for, I'll go there ahead of time, but otherwise it's pretty much remote.
So you find the information, and then does it get sent to the producers? Like, you write it and it just gets sent to the producers, or is it like a teleconference where everybody's talking about it and say, yeah, this is what I found? And
so I give them like an episode Bible almost. So, all the historic points, especially like people who have died there, newspaper clips, all that stuff goes in this one document. Our interviews. So anybody that's ever been on the show, I've interviewed them first, and I get the bullet points because we do reenactments, and our producers need to prepare for that. So if it's like, a man in a Union blue Civil War uniform comes down the stairs and disappears, they know they're going to need an actor for that. We do reenactments. It's not faking it. It's obvious, right? When you watch it.
Right.
So I'm giving all those notes to the producers ahead of time. Like, here's what this person's going to say when we interview them. Here's what happened here historically. Here's, some sound bites we could use to sort of transition and introduce the place. And then that's all given to them. And then Zach reads it, the producers read it, and they get to work in the field. And they always have that for reference. If they're looking for like, oh, what room did that person die in? It's in the notes,
Gotcha.
So I make sure they have everything they need historically, and that I've found people that can share their ghost experiences in these locations.
Right. There was one episode, I'll never forget it, because it was literally like, I couldn't believe it. Zach knocked on the door, and I don't remember where it was at. Knocks on the door to get, I guess he was like lived in the town his whole life. So he had like a lot of information. So he knocks on the door and the guy was, I don't know. He was probably 80, 90 years old. I don't know. And he knocks on the door and the guy's like talking to him and he goes, okay. And he falls backwards and Zach like helps him up and puts him, and then he falls into the rocking chair on the front porch. I was like, I can't believe they left that in there.
That was Moundsville Penitentiary, and that was season 1. And that guy lived across the street from the penitentiary.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, yeah, like, but the crazy thing is like, that's real, right? Like
he was like the sweetest little guy, and he was just like, see you later.
Fell over. He just fell over. I know. And like, and I think at that point you're almost obligated to show he was okay.
Yeah, I know. Because of course everybody been like,
yeah, right. So anyway, no, I mean, people are amazing, and I think so entertaining. And I don't mean laughing at them. I just mean like, we're all so quirky and different and have such different life experiences and so much to share. And some of the characters I've met working on that show, people that are just like, you're like, man, I think you're a little bit crazy. And I mean that with love. Like, I don't mean that insulting. I just mean like, no, legit, when this is over, we should probably go to a bar together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I have questions. We should hang out.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun of it.
I apologize if I'm saying the name wrong. I want to say Shay, but maybe it's Shah.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you could contact anyone who has died, who would it be and what would you ask?
So, there's always family that's interesting, but I kind of feel like we should leave family alone. Cause it's too difficult and painful, but I always come back to Lincoln, Abe Lincoln, because I think he's such an iconic American figure. And, he's actually, of all the presidents, like him in Washington, you know what I mean? Like they're almost into like deity status, and I just would have questions. Lincoln more than anyone, just the incredible, he's so quotable.
Oh, okay. Wait, I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay. Oh, good night. Bye. I guess this was fun. That's a roll credits. Oh, look at that.
The wit and wisdom of Abraham Lincoln.
Like it's, I feel like, imagine him today, like, you would just put him on the 24/7 news channels and be like, okay, Florida man, is on crack and jumps through window. Lincoln, right? Like just comment, give us something. Oh, Florida man is, you know how he is. He gets crack in him and he'll do anything,
Do you think he would change his outfit?
No, please don't. God, no. No, that's.
Every picture he's wearing the same exact thing.
Right. Yeah. We need the hat. We need the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, that's how they dressed. But no, I just think he's such an interesting, dynamic character from history, and would just be like a barrel of laughs to hang out with. And one of the, and what I loved about him too is if you read his letters and his speeches, I feel like he was just so transparent. In a good way. Like he would just be like, this is what I think. This is what I feel. And here it is. Like
he was definitely ahead of his time.
Yeah. Like
stuff like that.
You can call me crazy. I don't care. Like I had this dream and it was prophetic and I thought I died in it. And I thought, I saw this and just his observations, I just thought were just so great. If he was around today, he probably would have been a stand-up comic, right? Like a really successful one.
Oh
right?
yeah. For sure.
He'd be like, politics, screw that. Let's do the circuit, Oh, there he is. 407 beers ago. Taryn started us.
My glass is still half full.
Half full. Well done.
Did you see what was the movie?
Lincoln?
The Vampire Slayer, though?
No, I haven't. And
you have to see it. You have to.
I'm embarrassed. No, I should. You're right.
I was like, this is going to be so corny, but it was actually really good.
So sometimes a movie with a title lets you know to have your expectations low,
Right.
and then they'll only be exceeded, right? So like another example. I think, did you ever see the movie Dude, Where's My Car?
Yes.
My expectations could not have been any lower when I put that movie on.
It was so great.
And by the end, I was like, this wasn't half bad.
Right.
If it was called like greatest comedy of our time,
Right.
I would have been like, this sucked. This was
Right.
trash. This was a total crap, right? And so anyway, I think like when you call it Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, you're like, this is going to be silly.
Yeah,
And
I thought it was going to be horrible, but I was like, I have to see it, right? But some of the scenes were like, oh, Civil War, this and that. So of course, I'm like, yeah, I got to watch it. And the way they intertwine the real history into the fiction, like I was like, wow. I was like, this is awesome, and the acting was good.
Of course, so, I mean, I can only imagine trying out for that part. Like, oh, this is going to make my career. The Vampire Slayer. I'm ready.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was just amazing. It's really good. You have to watch it, and then you have to let me know what you thought.
All right. I'm on it.
I did. Oh, I must be in the minor. He didn't care for Abraham Lincoln. I thought it was good. I mean, you have to take it for what it is.
And by the way, you don't know this, but John is a movie guy.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of his thing, like seeing movies and making comments. So anyway, I'll listen to both of you, but I really should watch it. I feel like it's part of the cultural narrative, and I've missed it.
Yeah, well, especially being a Abraham Lincoln fan
and a vampire fan, to be perfectly honest.
Me too. If you could be a werewolf or a vampire, I always choose vampire.
You know what? The only reason I might go werewolf is because I don't think I want to be immortal. At some point, I want the story to end.
No, I love the vampire lifestyle. They like party and, do things that are fun. And I mean, aside from the blood stuff, other than that, like they're all hot, and they're all like, everybody's having fun and partying together. And it's just like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
I'm a vampire all the way.
Fair
I
enough.
couldn't deal with all the hair of the werewolf. Like I'm just.
Yeah. Well, we all have our thing.
There's so many. All these people are asking questions now. Say, how is Ziggy?
Ziggy is my new bird. He's totally adorable. I'll show you a picture. My family, we're bird people. I'm allergic to cats and dogs. So no, don't be sorry. Like, we have Ziggy, and he's like just totally adorable. He's a cockatiel, and we just got him.
Oh my gosh, does he talk? Like, does he?
He's still a baby, but we'll find out. The last bird I had talked, which is kind of a mind bender. The first time you hear a bird talk.
I want an African gray so bad, because I think
no, you don't. By the way, you're way too old to get an African gray.
Oh yeah, they were like 80 years. They lived 80 years.
It will outlive you by a long shot, and then what do you do with it? It's just not fair to someone else in your family.
I have like 17 nieces and nephews. I'm like, one of them can have it.
Yeah, like you got to get an African gray when you're like 10, and that's a lifelong commitment,
Oh my God.
Yeah, so Ziggy's good. He's only been with us like a week and a half, but we love him already. He's adorable, very tame, very sweet, and he's singing. I think he speaks Mandarin, but we don't speak that, so we're gonna work on his English.
Oh my gosh, really? How old is he?
He doesn't really speak Mandarin, Taryn. I'm joking.
Well, very, I believe you. See, you did. I mean, like every time you tell me something, I'm like, really? You're like, no.
No. He just speaks bird right now. We're working on human. I'd say both.
Yes.
Really, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. Everybody's. Oh, teach Ziggy Swahili.
Hujambo Ziggy. Yeah.
And all I remember is you saying Rafiki, and I remember that from Lion King.
Friend. Rafiki means friend.
Yeah, that was his name.
Yeah.
So, but everybody else is saying they liked it. So you just have to watch the movie.
I'm in. I'm convinced. Your endorsement is glowing. I'm ready to watch it.
Yes.
John Gately be damned. John, I'm going to watch it, and then we'll have words. Maybe I'll agree with you though, John. When it's over, I might be like, you know what, you're right, or I might be like, no, Taryn, you're right. We'll see.
All right, John, it's on.
It's on.
It's me and him. You're the tiebreaker.
All right.
Well, I mean, I could keep talking.
You could keep drinking too.
It's still half full. It's like this never-ending glass. I mean, it just doesn't end. But I appreciate you coming on. I don't have to go anywhere. You're the busy one. So
yes. No, I haven't eaten dinner yet. So there's that.
Oh my gosh, please. Yes, you have to.
But thank you for I'm sorry it took so long to make this magic happen, but I'm glad we got to squeeze it in before the thrill ride that is the fall for me.
Yes. And make sure, I mean, everybody, oh, that was nice. Thank you. This was fun. Glad I caught it. Yeah. There's never a dull moment with Jeff Belanger. Or how did you say it what did you say? He was French.
Belanger, if you wanted to go en français, but Belanger's fine. Just Jeff is okay. Whatever.
But before that, I used to say Belanger.
Yeah, I've been called everything. It's okay. Like I get it. I'm not a Smith or a Jones.
Hey, I have one of those names. People are like, what I do correct people now is when they say Karen. I'm like, oh no. Before I used to not care. I wouldn't correct anybody. But when they say Karen, I'm like, with a T. I'm no Karen. Right. No offense to any Karens out there.
None. No, of course. But you should be who you are at all costs, for sure.
Glad I caught this. This was tons of guns. I think you mean fun.
Right.
Aw.
Well, thanks. Hey, everybody.
But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Jeff, so much. I was looking forward to this. I'm so excited that you came on, and looking forward to whenever we're going to have a 15-minute ghost investigation in the basement of a somewhere
that I can ruin. That'd be great.
It would be awesome.
My once in a lifetime shot at getting in this haunted building, and you just make fart jokes in the corner. That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. But thank you so much, and good luck with everything. And thank you for sharing your Kilimanjaro story, and lots of love to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Taryn. Good seeing you.
You too. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.